All right, so let's take a look at the final project. We're on the website, we go down, we've got our evaluations, and the final project, which is worth 49%. It has several parts. 9% for a vocabulary quiz, 1/3 of 40% for some notes, another third for the writing you're going to do, both of which are due in class 13, and another 1/3 for the speaking evaluation, which is an interview with me and one other student, and half the class will do class 14, the interview, and the other half class 15. The day that you do not do the interview, you do not have class. So I'm going to skip over this stuff over here and come back to it afterwards. I want to show you this over here and in a bigger image. So you click on this and you'll get this document, which basically is an incident report. Let's take a look at this. So we've got the name of a person, we've got a department, date prepared, how long the person has had the job, the person's job title, where the incident happened, the day of the incident, and the name of the boss, Miriam Bumusa. So you, in this case, would be César Tunkeya, and you are the person who was involved in this incident at a future workplace. So you got to imagine yourself in the future, several years from now, after you have done all your studies, you're doing a job you're hopefully enjoying, and one day there's an incident at work, and you are the person who caused the incident to happen. So the first question is, can you explain the operation in which you were involved? And the person answers, well, I was taking inventory to determine what chemicals to order. This is a person who works in a lab. And then what were you doing before the incident? Well, I was removing gallons from a storage cabinet under a counter. And what were the conditions of your work? Is it routine? I was working alone. It's a routine operation. So as you can see, it's a whole bunch of questions that you have to answer to describe the incident. Okay, and eventually you're going to be using facts from sources. I don't just want you to imagine the whole thing. I want you to get some content from sources to show that you're comfortable working with videos, right? You see a time over there, so that means it's a video. You're comfortable working with sources related to your program and using information from them to tell this fictional story you have invented. So if I go down more quickly now, and if I get to the end, you see other little note numbers, 2 and 3. If I get more quickly to the end of my notes, I see the references. These are the different sources that I used. Okay, here's a video, you can tell from the YouTube over here, called Crash Course, which presents some lab techniques and safety information. Here we have the Martin companies create a material safety data sheet, which some of you have seen before, this sort of thing. I'm going to click on this just to give you an idea of what we're looking for. So here's a source that is used in those notes, and it's not a source that describes an accident, rather it's a source that talks about sulfuric acid. And it has information where it gets identified, what it looks like. It's odorless, it's clear to amber in color. It's heavy and oily. It has a pungent odor. You have emergency overview information. Danger, it's extremely corrosive, causes severe burns. Now, if I'm a student, I need to create an accident. Right away, this makes me think, oh, I could have in my accident something about burns. And then if I mention burns in my accident, then I could use this as my source of the idea for burns. Okay, so you go through your document and you'll find all kinds of stuff that you could use. There's stuff over here about the impact on the eyes. It'll cause immediate pain and severe burns. It can create corneal damage. It could even lead to permanent blindness. So you can see how what you want are sources that will give you ideas for details to put in your notes. Okay, so back to my notes. I'm answering all these questions and I'm looking for details to use to answer the questions, and I get those details from my sources. All right, and I list my sources at the end of the document. To keep your notes lighter, I recommend you use the system where you use these numbers. and instead of putting the author's names actually in your notes, which is heavy. And when you use the source for the first time, it gets the number 1, the very first source in your notes. And then every time you use this source, it's always going to be a number 1 that shows up. So all these number 2s you see over here are from the second source that I used. And the number 3s are all from this source. Okay, so that's how that system works. It repeats numbers when their source is used repeatedly. Okay. Back to the overview then. So that's your example. Spend some time looking at that. The more you look at that, the more you'll get an idea of what you're going to be creating and the work involved. Over here, you have that description that pretty much says what I was just talking about. Here you have an overview of the steps. So this is like a really short summary of the steps. You're going to create one document in Word 365. We're going to do all of our work this time in this one document. And then you're going to get your sources, videos, and articles. You're going to choose some new words from your sources. You're going to create those notes that we just saw. And you're going to describe and analyze the incident as you answer the questions in those notes. And then you'll be interviewed about the incident. So the details for the steps are here. And it might look like there's a lot of details there, but there's nothing that is really surprising. All of this fits with what we've been doing in the course since the beginning. So there shouldn't be any surprises at all. It's just all stuff to help you remember how to do the work well. Take the time to look at these little details and you'll get really good results on your evaluation, I think, at least for the content. The questions that you're answering in the notes are right over here. You've got PDF over here and a Word version over here if you want to work directly in a Word document, but make sure you copy those into your master document for this project. Okay. And you've got down here how you're evaluating the vocabulary quiz and the grids for the notes, for the writing, and for the speaking. Okay, speaking is last, writing is due in week 13, and the notes are also due for everybody in week 13. Okay, the notes, one last thing I'll say, the more information you use and the more sources you use and the more challenging your sources are, the higher your score. If your references are done perfectly, that also increases your score. If there are major errors in your references, you're not scoring higher than that 6 over here. Okay, and you have down here the description of major errors versus minor errors. All right, so take some time, get familiar with that, and you can ask me questions in class next week if you have any. That's it.